I'm Willa Crane, 24, and I'm a first-year elementary school teacher in South Bend, Indiana. At midnight, my world came crashing down. A baseball bat, swung with brutal force, connected with the back of my neck. I went down hard, pain exploding through my whole body, my vision going blurry. My brother stood over me, his silhouette a menacing figure gripping the bat, his eyes glinting with something dark and evil. I tried to scream, but my voice was trapped in my throat. With shaking hands, I fumbled for my phone, frantically typing a desperate SOS to my best friend. He hit me. Call 911. Before I could hit send again, my mother and father burst into the room. I actually thought they were going to save me. Instead, my mother let out a cold, heartless laugh. "Stop overreacting," she said. "He's just playing around." My father smirked, adding, "Go back to sleep. Don't be so dramatic." They snatched my phone away, the screen still glowing with my unsent plea for help. I clawed at the floor, fighting with everything I had to stay conscious, but their voices faded into a chilling whisper. "Handle it fast. No traces." This wasn't some kind of sick prank. My own family, the people I lived with, were hiding something truly sinister. My head throbbed, but one thought burned crystal clear in my mind. I had to survive. I had to expose them for what they were. As I slipped toward unconsciousness, I clung to that resolve, knowing the truth would eventually come out in ways I couldn't even begin to imagine. Have you ever been betrayed by the people closest to you? Drop a comment with your story and hit subscribe to follow mine. The fight for justice starts right here. And you absolutely won't believe what happens next. The next morning, I woke up on the cold, hard concrete floor of the garage. My neck ached with a heavy, throbbing pulse, a constant reminder that I was still alive, somehow. As I lay there, unable to move at first, memories came flooding back, painting a clearer picture of why I'd always felt like a stranger in my own home. At 24, I was living with my family in South Bend to try and save some money. My teaching job at the local elementary school barely covered my student loans, so moving out on my own just wasn't an option. But staying with them came with a steep price. My mother, Nova Crane, and my father, Ulysses Crane, poured all of their attention and affection on my brother, Tate Crane. At 19, a college freshman, Tate could skip classes or even wreck his car, and they'd just laugh it off. "He's figuring things out," Nova would say, her voice filled with warmth, but only for him. For me, it was completely different. If I forgot to unload the dishwasher or stayed late at school grading papers, Ulysses would scold me. "Get it together, Willa." He'd snap, his eyes cold and hard. The divide between us started years ago, rooted in small, seemingly insignificant moments that I didn't see coming. My grandma, Margaret Crane, was always my escape. When I was a teenager, I'd ride my bike to her house near Notre Dame, where we'd spend hours reading mystery novels or tending to her beautiful rose garden. "You've got her spirit," she'd tell me, her smile soft and knowing. Tate never cared to visit her. He'd scoff, calling her that old lady whenever her name came up. Grandma noticed, of course. She saw that his charm was just on the surface and that his temper was quick to flare. When Grandma died 3 years ago, her will changed absolutely everything. She left me $800,000 to be received on my 25th birthday because I'd always been there for her, bringing her tea, listening to her stories. The trust was locked until I turned 25, which was just a year away now. That money completely split our family apart. Tate's resentment grew sharper and more obvious. At dinners, he'd glare at me whenever anyone praised my teaching. One evening, he accidentally tripped and sent my camera crashing to the floor, its lens shattered. "My bad," he said, but the smirk on his face betrayed him. Another time, my laptop stopped working after he used it. The screen was cracked and useless. Nova just brushed it off. "Accidents happen, Willa," she said, her tone flat and dismissive. Ulysses just nodded, avoiding my gaze. Their favoritism wasn't anything new, but the will definitely made it worse. Nova started mentioning the money more and more often. "That inheritance could really fix things," she'd say over breakfast, her eyes flicking to me. Ulysses, always tinkering with his computer, would hum in agreement. I overheard them arguing late at night about unpaid bills, their voices tense and strained through the walls. They were drowning in debt, and I was starting to feel like a means to an end. Tate took it even further. "Why her?" he hissed one night, cornering me in the hallway. "You don't deserve it. His words cut deep. He was my brother, but we were never really close. His pranks escalated, hiding my lesson plans, pouring coffee on my books. Each time, Nova and Ulysses defended him. "He's just under a lot of pressure," Ulysses said, shrugging it off. Teaching was my lifeline. My students' eager faces gave me purpose, a reason to keep going, even when things were tough. But at home, I was practically invisible. Tate's actions grew bolder, and my parents' excuses grew weaker. One afternoon, I found my car keys missing, forcing me to miss an important parent-teacher meeting. Tate grinned when I confronted him. "Chill, Willa," he said, tossing them back to me. Nova overheard and just sighed. "Don't make a scene," she told me. That night, I caught her whispering to Ulysses in the living room. "That money could save us," she said, her voice low and desperate. "She doesn't even need it," Ulysses murmured back, agreeing with her. My stomach churned with anxiety and dread. They weren't just protecting Tate anymore. They were planning something sinister. The garage's chill brought me back to the present. Those memories made it crystal clear that Tate's jealousy and my parents' desperation had been simmering for years. With my 25th birthday looming closer and closer, they were running out of time. I wasn't just their daughter anymore. I was an obstacle standing in their way. I had to escape, uncover their plan, and protect what Grandma had given me. Days before, I had been trying to focus on teaching. My classroom was my sanctuary, the one place where I could pour my energy into lesson plans and my students' bright, inquisitive questions. But the tension at home was bleeding into everything, pulling me apart piece by piece. The week of my parents' anniversary party, it all finally boiled over. As a first-year teacher in South Bend, I was still finding my footing. My days were spent crafting engaging activities for my third graders, hoping to spark their curiosity and love of learning. I'd stay late at school, tweaking handouts or grading papers, doing anything to avoid the constant strain that was waiting for me at home. But I knew I couldn't skip the party. Nova and Ulysses had been planning it for weeks. It was supposed to be a big event to celebrate their 25 years together. They'd invited neighbors, coworkers, even distant cousins. I dreaded it, knowing that Tate would find some way to make me miserable. The night of the party, I arrived home with my folder of lesson plans, ready to finalize them after all the guests had left. The house was buzzing with chatter and the clinking of glasses. I forced a smile, greeting people as I made my way through the crowd. But Tate was already in his element, charming everyone with his easy grin. He caught my eye and smirked, like he knew something that I didn't. I ignored him, setting my folder on the kitchen counter, trying to keep it out of the way. I just wanted to get through the evening without any drama. Halfway through the party, I stepped away to check on my work. My heart sank. My folder was open, and the pages were scattered everywhere, some crumpled, others stained with punch. My carefully drawn diagrams for an upcoming science unit were ruined, the ink smudged beyond recognition. I knew instantly who was responsible. I found Tate by the dessert table, laughing with a neighbor. "Did you touch my folder?" I asked, trying to keep my voice low and even. He shrugged, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Maybe it fell," he said, popping a cookie into his mouth. His casual dismissal burned me. I gathered the damaged pages, my hands shaking with a mixture of anger and frustration. Months of hard work, completely gone. I confronted Nova, who was busy refilling drinks. "Tate ruined my lesson plans," I said, holding up the evidence. She barely glanced at them. "Don't start any drama tonight, Willa," she snapped. "It's our anniversary." I stared at her, stunned. "This took weeks to prepare," I said. She rolled her eyes. "Make new ones. You're good at that." Her words stung, but what she said next was even worse. "Maybe if you weren't so focused on yourself, you'd see that we're all struggling here. That money from your grandma could really help." Her mention of grandmas will hit me hard. Margaret had left me $800,000 to be received on my 25th birthday, which was just a year away. Nova rarely spoke of it directly, but now her tone was sharp, almost accusing. "She always favored you," Nova added, her voice low so that others wouldn't hear. "It's not fair to the rest of us." I froze, the noise of the room fading into a dull hum. Ulysses appeared, sensing the tension. "What's going on here?" he asked. I showed him the ruined pages. "Tate did this," I said. He sighed, glancing at Nova. Kids make mistakes, Willa. Just let it go. Their dismissal was like a punch to the gut. Tate overheard and sauntered over, his expression smug. You're way too sensitive, Willa, he said, loud enough for some of the guests to turn and look. Always playing the victim. My face burned with humiliation. I wanted to scream that he'd crossed a line, but the eyes of the crowd stopped me. I retreated to my room, clutching the ruined plans, my anger mixing with a deep sense of hurt. Nova's words about the inheritance echoed in my mind. She wasn't just defending Tate. She was resentful of me. The money wasn't just a gift. It was a wedge, driving us further and further apart. Later that evening, I overheard Tate talking to a cousin in the hallway. She thinks she's better than us, he said, his voice bitter. That money should be ours. His words confirmed what I'd feared all along. My own brother saw me as a rival, an enemy. The party continued, laughter filling the house, but I felt more alone than ever. Nova and Ulysses didn't care about my work or my pain. They were fixated on something else, something that was directly tied to that inheritance. I didn't know their full plan, but the pieces were slowly starting to fall into place. After the anniversary party, Tate's venomous words and Nova's cold accusations left me shaken and on edge. I went to bed, feeling uneasy, sensing that danger was closing in. At midnight, my brother Tate swung a baseball bat, striking me in the back of the neck. I collapsed, pain tearing through my body. In a desperate blur, I managed to send an SOS to my emergency contacts. As I faded into unconsciousness, my parents' laughter cut through the darkness. Don't overdo it, my mother, Nova said. He's just playing around. Their mockery stung as darkness swallowed me whole. I woke up in the garage, locked inside. My neck throbbed, but the fear kept me sharp and alert. The door was bolted shut, trapping me in the cold, cluttered space. Through the wall, I could hear Nova and Ulysses in the kitchen, their voices low and tense. I pressed my ear against the concrete, trying to catch what they were saying, and I overheard their chilling scheme. We've got 1 year before she turns 25, Nova hissed. That money is our only way out of this mess, Ulysses replied, his tone grim. I'll edit the security footage. We'll say that Willa attacked Tate. The trust's clause will give us the money. My heart pounded in my chest. They were plotting to frame me for assaulting Tate in order to steal the $800,000 that Grandma had left me, money that would be mine on my 25th birthday. Their words confirmed my worst fears. Tate's attack was no accident. It was their opening move in a carefully orchestrated plan. I pulled back, my mind racing. Their plan explained Nova's resentment, Tate's hostility. Everything. They saw me as a barrier, an obstacle standing between them and the inheritance. I needed proof to fight back against them. The garage was a mess, filled with boxes and junk, but there had to be something in here that I could use to expose them for what they were. I started searching, determined to find some kind of evidence before their lies completely buried me. I crawled to the shelves, pain stabbing through my neck with every movement. My hands sifted through the dusty clutter until I spotted an old laptop, half buried under a pile of tools. Hope surged through me, a spark of salvation in the darkness. It was an outdated model, probably forgotten and unused, but it might still work. I powered it on, praying that the battery wasn't completely dead. The screen flickered to life, and I noticed that it was linked to our home security system. My pulse raced. If the cameras had caught Tate's attack, and Nova and Ulysses hadn't erased the footage yet, I might actually have a chance to clear my name. I accessed the system, my fingers trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement. The footage from that night was still there, time-stamped just after midnight. I clicked play, my breath catching in my throat. The video showed our living room, stark and clear. Tate stood over me, the bat raised high above his head, his face twisted with rage. He swung the bat, and I crumpled to the ground, clutching my neck in agony. My voice gasped out a plea for help, just before Nova and Ulysses appeared on the screen. Move her now, Nova said, her tone icy and devoid of any emotion. Ulysses nodded in agreement. Keep it quiet. The footage ended abruptly. Triumph coursed through me. They hadn't deleted it, after all. It was pure luck, but it was enough. I saved the video to a blank USB drive that I found nearby, my hands shaking with excitement. I kept digging through the files on the laptop, checking to see if there was anything else that could help me. An email client was open, logged into an old account. There was a message from Grandma's lawyer, sent months before she passed away, with an attached document, her will. I opened it, my heart pounding in my chest. It read, "To Willa Crane, $800,000. To be received on her 25th birthday, in recognition of her loyalty and care." It detailed all the time I had spent with her, cooking, talking, gardening, while Nova and Tate remained distant. Then I saw the clause that chilled me to the bone. If Willa Crane is convicted of a violent crime, such as assault, the entire inheritance will be transferred to Nova Crane. Grandma had added this to ensure that the heir was morally worthy, but it had inadvertently handed Nova and Ulysses the perfect weapon to use against me. They were planning to frame me for attacking Tate, triggering the clause and allowing them to seize the money for themselves. The realization hit me hard. Their scheme was calculated, ruthless, and now crystal clear. I saved the document to the USB drive, a flicker of joy flaring in my chest. This was my lifeline, hard evidence that could clear my name and expose them for what they were. I gripped the USB drive tightly in my hand, my resolve hardening with each passing second. I could expose them, but I was still trapped in the garage. I examined the garage door's lock, and then I spotted a rusty screwdriver on a nearby workbench. I jammed it into the hinge, twisting and prying until the pins loosened. The door cracked open just enough for me to slip through. I tucked the USB drive safely into my jacket pocket, knowing that it was my only defense against them. Nova and Ulysses were still in the kitchen, deep in conversation and plotting their next move. "The police will believe Tate," Ulysses was saying. "She's got nothing." I crept upstairs, my heart racing in my chest. My room felt like a trap, but I needed to come up with a plan, and fast. I hid the USB drive under my mattress, praying that it would stay safe until I could get it to the police. I had to reach Quinn or Aunt Lana, someone who would believe me and help me. Nova's voice drifted up from downstairs. "Check the garage soon," she said. "We can't let her talk." Time was running out. I held the truth in my hands, but their lies were closing in around me. I had to act quickly to protect the inheritance and clear my name. By morning, I broke free from the garage. My heart raced as I slipped through the cracked door, the USB drive tucked safely in my jacket. I sprinted across the yard to the neighbor's house, my breath ragged and shallow. The sun was barely up, casting long shadows over the quiet South Bend street. I knocked on the Miller's door, praying that they were awake. Mrs. Miller, a kind woman in her 60s, answered the door, her eyes widening in surprise at my bruised neck and panicked expression. "Willa, what's wrong?" she asked, pulling me inside. I stammered, trying to catch my breath. "I need to call 911. My family, they're trying to frame me for something." She handed me her phone without hesitation. I dialed 911, my voice shaking as I told the operator about Tate's attack and my parents' plot to steal my inheritance. "I have proof," I said, clutching the USB drive tightly in my hand. "Please send someone, and send them fast." The operator promised that officers would arrive as soon as possible. I thanked Mrs. Miller, who offered me a cup of tea, but I couldn't sit still. My mind was churning with thoughts about what was going to happen next. Minutes later, I heard the wail of sirens in the distance. 2 police officers, a man and a woman, arrived at the Miller's door. I explained everything to them, my voice steady despite the fear that was gripping me. "My brother Tate hit me with a baseball bat last night," I said. "My parents, Nova and Ulysses, locked me in the garage. They're planning to frame me for attacking him in order to take my inheritance, $800,000. I'm due to receive it when I turn 25. The male officer, Officer Daniels, raised an eyebrow. "That's a serious accusation, Miss Crane. Do you have any evidence to back it up?" I held up the USB drive. "This has a video of Tate attacking me, as well as a copy of the will, which shows their motive." Before they could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I'd grabbed it before escaping from the garage. A text message from an unknown number read, "You attacked Tate. We have proof. Turn yourself in." My stomach dropped. Attached to the message was a grainy video clip showing me swinging a baseball bat at Tate, his body crumpling to the ground. My hands shook uncontrollably. It was fake. Ulysses must have edited the security footage, just as he had planned. Another text message followed, supposedly from me to Tate. "I'm done with you. You're going to regret that you ever knew me." I stared at the message, horrified. They'd fabricated messages to make me look guilty. The officers were watching me closely, their expressions unreadable. "That's not me," I said, my voice cracking. "They're setting me up, I swear." I handed Officer Daniels the USB drive, urging him to check it first. "The real footage is on here," I said. "It shows Tate attacking me, and my parents covering it up." The female officer, Officer Lee, took the USB drive and plugged it into a portable device. The video played, clear and unedited, showing Tate raising the bat, striking me down, and Nova and Ulysses dragging me away. "Move her now," Nova's voice echoed from the device. The officers exchanged glances. "This looks legit," Officer Lee said, "but we'll need to verify both videos." I pulled up the will file from the USB drive on their device. It detailed Grandma's bequest: $800,000 to me at 25, in recognition of my loyalty, caring for her, cooking, talking, and gardening with her, while Nova and Tate remained distant. The critical clause made my blood run cold all over again. If I were convicted of a violent crime, like assault, the entire sum would pass to Nova. Grandma had included this to ensure that the heir was morally upright, a safeguard that was rooted in her deep distrust of Nova's greed. But it had given my parents the perfect opening to exploit the situation. They'd staged Tate's attack, faked evidence, and planned to pin it all on me in order to trigger the clause and seize the money for themselves. The realization hit me like a punch of ice water. Their betrayal was even deeper and more calculated than I had imagined, a ruthless move to rob me of everything. Officer Daniels nodded slowly. "We'll take this all back to the station for analysis," he said. "The edited video and text are definitely concerning, but your evidence is pretty strong." I exhaled, a mixture of relief and dread washing over me. "They're still at the house," I said. "They don't even know that I'm here." Officer Lee radioed for backup, telling them that they were going to question Nova, Ulysses, and Tate. I felt a flicker of hope, but it was still fragile and tentative. Their lies were convincing, and I was still the target of their twisted scheme. Mrs. Miller offered to let me stay at her house until the police sorted everything out. I thanked her, but I knew that I couldn't hide forever. I needed to contact Aunt Lana. She'd always believed in me, no matter what. I borrowed Mrs. Miller's phone again and dialed Lana's number. "Willa?" she answered, her voice thick with worry. "Your SOS last night. What happened?" I explained everything to her. Tate's attack, the plot, the USB drive. "I'm with the police now," I said. "I have proof, but they're framing me. I'm scared." Lana promised to drive down from Chicago immediately. "Stay safe," she urged. "Don't go back to that house, no matter what." As I hung up the phone, Officer Lee returned. "We're heading to your house now," she said. "Stay here with Mrs. Miller. We'll need your statement later." I nodded, gripping my jacket where the USB drive had been hidden. It was my shield against them, but the fight was far from over. Nova and Ulysses were cunning, and Tate's rage was unpredictable. I had to stay sharp and focused in order to protect Grandma's legacy and my own freedom. A week later, I found myself facing the jury in St. Joseph County Court. My heart pounded in my chest as I stood in the witness box. The USB drive in my pocket, a heavy anchor, a constant reminder of what was at stake. The courtroom was silent, all eyes fixed on me. Lana, who was a lawyer who had driven down from Chicago, sat at the defense table, her steady gaze giving me strength and resolve. I was ready to expose the truth, no matter the cost. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Miss Carter, called me to the stand to testify. I took a deep breath and began. "My brother, Tate, attacked me with a baseball bat," I said, my voice clear and strong. "My parents, Nova and Ulysses, covered it up and then framed me for assault. They did it all for my inheritance, $800,000, which I'm due to receive when I turn 25. I explained the events of the night of the attack, how I'd sent an SOS to my emergency contacts, and how my parents had mocked me, calling it a joke. The jury listened intently, some of them scribbling notes. I handed the USB drive to Lana, who presented it to the court as evidence. "This contains security footage from my home," I said. "It shows Tate striking me with the bat, and my parents dragging me to the garage and locking me in. This is the absolute proof." The judge nodded, and a screen was set up in the courtroom. The video played. Tate's rage-filled face, the bat swinging through the air, my body crumpling to the ground. Nova's cold voice cut through the silence. "Move her now," Ulysses muttered. "Keep it quiet." Gasps rippled through the jury. Lana paused the video, pointing out the timestamp and clarity of the footage. "This video is completely unedited," she said. "Forensic analysis confirms it." Next, I introduced my SOS records as evidence. I sent this SOS signal at midnight, I said, showing phone logs timestamped just before I lost consciousness. The logs listed Lana and my aunt as recipients, proving that I had sought help immediately after the attack. Lana corroborated this, explaining that she had received the alert and had called me the next morning, during which time she learned of the entire plot. I pulled out my journal, a small notebook that I'd kept for months. This journal documents their hostility towards me and my fears about what they might be planning, I said, flipping to entries describing Tate's growing aggression and my parents' constant dismissal of my concerns. One entry, dated weeks before the attack, read, "Nova mentioned the will again tonight. She's completely obsessed with the money." Another noted Tate's threats after I refused to lend him cash. The judge examined the pages, her expression unreadable. Lana spoke up. These entries align perfectly with the timeline of the attack and the scheme to steal Willa's inheritance. Ms. Carter presented the prosecution's case, claiming that I had attacked Tate. She showed their fake video, which depicted me swinging a bat at him and his body falling to the ground. "This video is completely fabricated," I said, my voice steady and unwavering. "My father, Ulysses, has already admitted that he edited the security footage to frame me." Lana backed me up, citing a forensic report that exposed digital tampering in their video. The faces of the jury members hardened, sensing the lie. I explained the details of the inheritance. My grandmother, Margaret, left me $800,000 because I took care of her, spent time with her, cooking, talking, gardening, while my parents and Tate remained distant. I displayed the will from the USB drive, highlighting the specific clause. If Willa Crane is convicted of a violent crime, such as assault, the money will pass to Nova. My grandmother added this clause to ensure that the heir was morally sound because she distrusted Nova's greed. I paused for a moment, then continued. My parents used this clause to frame me, staging Tate's attack to trigger it and steal the inheritance that was rightfully mine. The jury leaned forward, absorbing every detail of the motive. Lana took the floor, her voice commanding and confident. "The evidence is clear," she said. "The unedited video, the SOS logs, and Willa's journal all confirm her account of what happened. The prosecution's video is manipulated, and their texts claiming that Willa threatened Tate are from a burner phone, not hers." She presented a police report that traced the texts directly to Ulysses. The courtroom buzzed with hushed conversations. Lana's expertise was shining through, dismantling their lies one by one. The judge called a recess to review the evidence. I sat with Lana, my nerves fraying at the edges. "You did great," she whispered, squeezing my hand. "They can't possibly ignore all of this." I nodded, gripping her hand tightly. The USB drive, the SOS logs, and my journal were my shield against them, but doubt still lingered in the back of my mind. My family's deception ran deep, and I feared that they might somehow slip away and escape justice. When court resumed, Officer Daniels, who had responded to my 911 call, took the stand to testify. "Willa's evidence matches everything that she told us when we arrived at the scene," he said. "The fake video and the threatening texts were traced directly to devices owned by Ulysses. There's no doubt that he had a motive." The eyes of the jury narrowed. Ms. Carter tried to argue against the evidence, but her case crumbled under the weight of Lana's skillful cross-examination. The judge delivered her ruling. Based on the evidence presented, there is probable cause to charge Nova Crane, Ulysses Crane, and Tate Crane with assault and fraud. Officers moved in, handcuffing my parents and brother. Nova's face twisted in a mask of fury. Ulysses stared blankly ahead, and Tate muttered curses under his breath. I exhaled slowly, relief washing over me in a wave. Their plan to steal my grandmother's legacy had failed. As they were led away, Lana squeezed my shoulder. "You're free," she said, smiling. I felt lighter than I had in months, but the fight was not quite over. The inheritance was safe for the moment, but I knew that my family would not give up easily. Now, I had to remain vigilant until I turned 25. Justice was within reach, and I wasn't about to let it slip through my fingers. 2 weeks later, my mother launched her online attacks. Nova, out on bail, unleashed a barrage of posts on social media, labeling me as unstable. Her words stung with a venomous bite. "Will Crane has mental issues," she wrote on a public forum, falsely claiming that I had fabricated the assault to ruin the family. The lies spread like wildfire, distorting my reality. I woke up to a deluge of notifications. Friends from high school unfollowed me. Neighbors I'd known for years sent chilling messages. "Is it true you're unhinged?" My inbox overflowed with accusations from strangers. all echoing Nova's slanderous claims. At the grocery store, Mrs. Larson, who had once baked me cookies, turned her back when I waved. The crushing weight of isolation felt heavier than ever before. I scrolled through Nova's posts, each one like a carefully aimed dagger. She portrayed me as a delusional liar, desperate for my grandmother's $800,000 inheritance, which was due when I turned 25. I was 24, with 1 year left to endure this agonizing nightmare. At school, the repercussions hit even harder. I taught history at South Bend High, where I had poured my heart and soul into my lessons. On Monday, Principal Andrews summoned me to his office. His face was grave. "Will, some parents are complaining," he said. "They're worried about your stability after those posts." I clenched my fists, explaining Nova's lies and the ongoing court case. He sighed, his expression filled with concern. "I believe you, Will, but we have to suspend you pending an investigation." My stomach plummeted. Teaching was my anchor, my passion, and now it was being ripped away from me. I left his office, my cheeks burning with shame, even though I had done absolutely nothing wrong. Back home, I sank onto my couch, staring blankly at my phone. Lana called, her voice sharp with anger. "Nova's trying to destroy your reputation," she said, her voice filled with fury. "We can sue for defamation, but it'll take time." I appreciated her fiery support, but time was the one thing I didn't have on my side. The inheritance loomed, a beacon of freedom, but Nova's relentless attacks threatened to bury me long before I could reach it. I knew I couldn't stay in South Bend, where every glance felt like a judgment, every whisper a condemnation. I needed to escape, to rebuild my life somewhere where no one knew my name, somewhere I could start over. I opened my laptop and began searching for teaching jobs far from Indiana. Chicago immediately caught my eye. It was Lana City, with its sprawling school system and the promise of a fresh start. I found a posting for a history teacher at a public high school. The application required a resume and a cover letter. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keys. Could I really leave my grandmother's legacy behind? Margaret had entrusted me to protect her gift, to use it wisely, but staying meant fighting a war. One wasn't sure I had the strength to win. I started typing, pouring my passion for teaching into the letter. I aimed to inspire students with stories of resilience and perseverance, thinking of my own grueling battle. As I worked, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "You'll never get that money," it read. My pulse quickened, adrenaline surging through my veins. It had to be Nova, using a burner phone to taunt me. I forwarded the message to Lana, who promised to trace it. "She's desperate," Lana said, her voice grim. "This proves she's scared." I nodded, but fear still gnawed at me. Nova's lies had already cost me my job and my community. What else could she take from me? I walked to the library, doing my best to avoid prying eyes. There, I printed my application and began researching apartments in Chicago. A small studio apartment near the school seemed surprisingly affordable. I imagined a new life, filled with new students, new streets, and no more whispers about my sanity. But doubt still crept in, whispering insidious questions in my ear. Leaving felt like letting Nova win, like abandoning my grandmother's trust. I clutched the printed pages, torn between staying to fight and fleeing to heal. That evening, I met Lana at a local diner. She slid a legal pad across the table, outlining a potential defamation case. "Nova's posts are demonstrably false," she said, her voice confident. "We can use the court evidence from the assault case to shut her down for good." I sipped my coffee, carefully weighing my options. A lawsuit could clear my name, but it would also chain me to South Bend, forcing me to remain mired in this toxic fight. I longed for peace, not more battles. "I'm thinking of leaving," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Lana's eyes softened with understanding. "I get it," she said, her voice gentle. "But wherever you go, I'll have your back." Her unwavering support steadied me, reminding me that I wasn't completely alone in this. By midnight, I had made my decision. I submitted the Chicago application, my heart pounding with a mixture of anxiety and resolve. South Bend held too many painful memories, too many deep-seated scars. Nova's lies, Tate's violence, Ulysses' silence. The inheritance represented my future, a chance to finally be free. But I couldn't bear to wait for it in a town that no longer felt like home. I packed a small bag, preparing to visit Chicago for an interview. A new chapter awaited, and I was determined to write it on my own terms. A year later, I had successfully rebuilt my life in Indianapolis. The city's vibrant energy felt like a breath of fresh air after South Bend's suffocating whispers. I stood in my new classroom at Lincoln High, meticulously writing lesson plans, my heart filled with purpose and a sense of calm. At 25, I had finally claimed my grandmother's $800,000 inheritance, and with it, a chance to redefine my future, to create a life free from the shadows of the past. The truth had ultimately prevailed. Lana's defamation lawsuit against my mother, Nova, had concluded months ago. A judge ruled that Nova's online claims, calling me mentally unstable, were demonstrably false, ordering her to issue a formal retraction. The ruling was widely reported in the local news, effectively clearing my name and restoring my reputation. My colleagues at Lincoln High welcomed me without judgment, completely unaware of my past unless I chose to share it with them. The school board in South Bend sent a formal apology, reinstating my teaching license, but I politely declined their offer to return. Indianapolis was my home now, a place where I could finally stand tall, a place where I felt safe and accepted. I used a portion of the inheritance to establish the Margaret Crane Scholarship Fund. Named in honor of my grandmother, it provided financial assistance to high school students pursuing degrees in history, her favorite subject. At the fund's launch event, I stood before a small crowd of educators and students, my voice steady and filled with emotion. "This is for students who seek truth," I said, picturing Margaret's warm and encouraging smile. She taught me to value knowledge and integrity over greed. The first scholarship recipient, a shy and intelligent senior named Emma, thanked me with tears in her eyes. Her lifelong dream was to study ancient civilizations, and the scholarship would cover her tuition, making her dream a reality. Seeing her hope and excitement mirrored my own, reminding me of why I had fought so hard to reclaim my life. Lana flew in for the event, her presence a quiet source of strength and unwavering support. Over coffee afterward, she updated me on my family's situation. Nova was facing jail time for fraud, her appeals having been exhausted. My brother Tate and my father Ulysses were both serving sentences for their roles in the assault. I nodded, feeling no anger or resentment, only a sense of detachment. They had chosen their path, and I had chosen mine. Lana squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with compassion. "You've built something real and meaningful," she said. I smiled, deeply grateful for her unwavering loyalty and friendship, a bond that proved to be stronger than blood. Teaching had become my sanctuary, my refuge from the storms of the past. My students, a diverse mix of curious and sometimes restless teenagers, challenged me daily, pushing me to be a better teacher and a better person. I crafted lessons on revolutions, drawing subtle parallels to my own personal fight for justice and self-discovery. One day, a particularly insightful student named Malik raised his hand. "How do you know what's true when people lie?" he asked, his brow furrowed with concern. I paused, thinking of Nova's malicious posts, Tate's violent actions, and Ulysses's deafening silence. "You dig for evidence," I answered, my voice firm. "And you trust the people who stand by you, the ones who believe in you even when you doubt yourself." Malik nodded thoughtfully, scribbling furiously in his notebook. Moments like these felt like small but significant victories, proof that I was making a difference in the lives of my students. The inheritance had provided me with financial stability, but I chose to live modestly. My apartment, a cozy one-bedroom near the school, was furnished simply with comfortable furniture and bookshelves overflowing with history texts. I donated a significant portion of the funds to a local women's shelter, remembering my own moments of fear and vulnerability. The remainder of the inheritance secured my future, providing the safety net that Margaret had always intended for me. I often thought of her, her captivating stories, her beautiful garden, and her unwavering trust in me. She had seen my strength, even when I doubted it myself. One evening, I received an email from Principal Andrews, my former boss in South Bend. He congratulated me on the establishment of the scholarship fund, admitting that he had misjudged me under immense pressure from the community. "You're doing great things, Will," he wrote. I replied with a simple thank you, feeling no anger or bitterness, only a tinge of nostalgia. South Bend was a closed chapter, its scars slowly fading with time. I had come to realize that family wasn't just about blood relations. It was about the people who chose to be in your life, the ones who offered unconditional love and support. Lana, my students, even Emma, the first scholarship recipient, were my chosen family. Now, reflecting on my journey, I saw justice as something far more profound than just a courtroom victory. It was the courage to confront lies, to stand alone when the world turned its back on you, and to fight for your own truth. The truth wasn't always loud or dramatic, but it always endured, quietly but powerfully. Nova's accusations had crumbled under the weight of scrutiny and evidence, just as Margaret's unwavering faith in me had remained unshaken. I had fought not just for the inheritance, but for my fundamental right to define myself, to control my own narrative. That was the true victory, the one that truly mattered. On weekends, I volunteered at a local community center, teaching history workshops to underprivileged youth. During one session, I shared a story about a woman who overcame betrayal and adversity to build a lasting legacy, a story of resilience and triumph. The teenagers listened intently, their eyes wide with admiration, completely unaware that I was actually speaking about my own life. "What's the lesson?" one of the girls asked, her voice filled with curiosity. I smiled, a genuine smile that came from deep within my soul. "Truth is your compass," I said, my voice resonating with conviction. "And family is who lifts you up, not who tears you down." They nodded in understanding, and I felt Margaret's spirit in the room with me, still guiding me, still inspiring me. As I locked my classroom one evening, my phone buzzed with a notification. Lana had sent a photo of us at the scholarship launch event, both of us smiling brightly. "Proud of you," she wrote. I saved the picture, my heart overflowing with gratitude. The past year,